Katie, Karen Burchill here, and in this gel printing video we are going to add to these base coated gel prints using DIY mark makers on the gel plate. So we're going to make a lot of gel prints with detail that I'm typically going to be using in one of two ways: as ripped collage items at the beginning of the process, or as collage items where I'm using it as a focal point. So here I'm using a piece of shelf liner, and I love the effect this gives on the base coats. And I'm using the gel plate pretty much as a stamp pad. I'm putting on a contrasting color, pressing the shelf liner into it, and then pressing the shelf liner, now that it has paint on it, onto an existing print. Now this could be a print that just has a base coat. It could be a print that, it didn't quite work the last time, or something that I'm just adding a little more interest to. So then I can pull off this print. Now I could keep this as it is, or I could add to it more details and colors. And I love using these. They're very simple, they're very plain. The patterns they're going to contrast nicely with some gel prints that might have more of a pattern. And then you can pick up the grungy bits, and that gives you a different effect. So nothing is wasted. And I've kind of gotten into the habit now of using both my 8x10 gel plates. Here I'm using cardboard. I've peeled off the one paper layer, and I'm using it again as a stamp pad. Now I'm pressing that to get the mark onto an existing print, and I'm putting it one way then the other way. And this is a very quick, easy way of doing plaid. And there's the print that I pressed it off onto. And I find when I press with my mark makers onto an existing print, if I put it on the other gel plate, the sponginess makes it come a little bit closer. So there you can see I could use all three of these on one piece. Now, if you look back at some of my videos where I've done teacups or fish, I cut it out of these collage papers or gel print papers. And I want some pattern on them. So a lot of what I'm creating today is going to be used in projects similar to that. I could also be using this and add to it at another stage. I could add stamping and a wash of color to some of these gel prints to make them more usable in my art. So here again, I'm using the shelf liner, pressing the blue onto the pink, contrasting colors that I know work well. And you can copy, say, okay, pink, she's putting the light blue on the pink, and you can copy what I'm doing, write it down for yourself if you need to. But the best way is to simply get paint on your gel plate and give it a try. Everything I've learned about color, I've learned by gel printing. And look at my hands. If your hands don't look like this, you're doing something wrong. So here I'm adding just another detail to something that I could have used. So all these papers are sitting on the side, and as I look at them, I think, yeah, I want to add a little bit more. I want some of them to be similar, but I want just a little bit of difference in amongst them as well. I will show some of these prints at the end of the video. Definitely not all of them. I have, I'm sure, hundreds and hundreds of prints in my marathon gel printing over the last 3 days. So here I have the light blue, and there is some mark making on there. Here I'm using a texture plate that I made by putting fun foam, cut in the swirl pattern, onto a piece of cardboard. You can make any kind of pattern and glue it onto the cardboard and use it as basically a texture plate. And there we have it. We have these two that could be used together and would look really nice because they're similar but almost the positive and negative of the same pattern. I'm thinking I have a little bit of paint on here, and I thought I could get it onto the other gel plate, but it was dry. So again, here we have two of these gel prints that are very similar, but they're going to look great as a focal image in the project. I also have a idea for something that I'm going to be selling in my craft fair and maybe selling online. And that's another reason why I am making so many gel prints right now. Here I used white and I did a pull-off print. The value added sometimes with the gel plate is because there's all this stuff that gets left on the plate, and eventually that does come up on a print, and it just makes it look so much more organic. Here's another shelf liner, a favorite of mine, this hexagon pattern. And it's kind of the thickness and feel of the caramel texture plates that you can buy. And there you have it. It's just a little bit of detail added to it. And then I can pull this off. So I stamp into it, stamp off that onto some backgrounds, then pull another print that I might add even more to it later. So it's a very involved process in some regards. My studio is a complete disaster area. So I'm going to put the yellow and I'm going to put blue on there. With this homemade texture plate. I really like using fun foam stamps or texture plates that I've created. There I had a gel print that I really it wasn't anything special, but I layered up another translucent color and it just took it to the next level. So here was a print that I used as stencil, but I didn't like too much white space, so I added a coat of yellow on it. It pushed the green back and it just made the print. And then I pulled another one off on there. I had so much paint left on the plate. So once I get all these prints done, I will sort them by color and they will be in my stash at Thready. If you want to see me using them, just subscribe to my channel, click on the bell and select the option to get notified of upcoming videos, and that way when you see the little thumbnail that says what the video is, you can decide if that's something you want to watch. But when I build stuff in my stash, eventually I use it, but it may not be immediate. Back to using the cardboard. And I do have a video where I discovered a technique of pulling off the paper in a quick, easy way. Here's my plaid, my simple plaid. I love making plaid designs. I love using that in my art. I find it very effective and it looks so good in my mind. I have red on here and I'm using yellow because I want that kind of burnt orange look. And I find when you mix paint, it becomes so much more dynamic. The colors are just more vivid in my mind. Have paint left over on the plate, so I pull it off. And I'm putting a colored sheet on it, so I'm just picking up the little bit of details on top of it. Cleaning the plate a little bit. You see that I have my tube of paint there. I was at the end of many of my tubes of paint, and so I decided that I'm going to use it all up during the gel printing session. So I have a lot of prints, different colors. I'm thinking the blue on top with the red's going to kind of make purple in there, which it does. Really not liking this one, so I'm just going to add another layer of paint. And I'll add something else to it, and then it's going to end up being, I just keep going till I get what I like. Just kind of cleaning off some of the stuff on the plate. I liked using both plates because if I put too much paint on one, then I could put the paint on the other. And over time, as I was doing this, I found that I ended up using less paint than I normally did. So off to the side, you see that yellow base coated print, and then I'm pressing the shelf liner into it. And yes, I have a lot of these. That is fine. I want lots of those in different colors and different color combinations. And here I'm pressing on the red onto the orange. So these are all warm colors, but I'm trying to build it into the idea of how I might use it. I'm loving that one. The alternative is you start a project and you decide, okay, I want these color combos in a gel print, and you pull out the gel print for that and you just make those gel prints for the project. I prefer having them in my stash and flipping through, and I find it is more creative and less rigid. If I go to start creating, I'm in a certain mindset. When I do a gel print session like I'm doing here, over time, the creativity just kicks in. And I try different things and I do different things, and I end up with some spectacular results that if I was just going straight to that process and just doing a limited amount, I don't know that I would get there. Loving that bottom part right there, the color combinations. And again, here I am mixing those colors on the plate. Sometimes I use one color, sometimes I use two. Each is going to give you a different effect, and you may actually use them in a different way. For the most part, I want a page full of a very same color because I want to be able to maybe cut out, 3 cups that are almost identical. Here I'm using the lid of a Tupperware that I got at the thrift store, and I'm just pressing onto the gel plate and pressing off onto those papers so you get the mark making on those existing ones. There was a gel print that I wasn't exactly fond of, so I'm adding another layer to it, and then it just, wow. So if you have a gel printing session and you go through your prints and it's like, yeah, no, this one's not great, this one's not great, this one's not great, or you find you're not using it, pull them out again and add something else to it in the next session. Depending on how much paint you use, you might get 1 or 2 pulls in different, they're the same, but they're different. One's darker than the other. One's more of a ghost print, and one's the first pull. So you're going to see me using a lot of this light blue and a lot of the quinacridone magenta because those are the colors that I'm trying to use up. I've cut open the tubes, or am going to cut open the tubes. There I have the pink underneath and I put the blue on top. Pushes the pink back, but you still see some of the pattern from behind. Gives a very different effect. Here I think I had too much paint. I did learn that when you do pull-off print, a little less paint helps pull off all the greeblies. So back to using the lid, and I'm stamping off to the side. I'm stamping on some paper, and it helps when you're stamping if you don't have it under another gel plate. Have it on a pad of paper or a mouse pad or a silicone mat, something that has a little bit of sponginess and give. You'll get a better print or stamp on it. Here's the bottom of dollar store tray. Love this pattern. So these are all things that you can buy at the thrift store or have in your cupboard, or it's in your recycling bin. And quite honestly, these are some of my favorite prints. These ones that I have made or I'm using, repurposing something. So there I'm stamping on the one and then taking the paint off onto the other. And I'm getting a print there because of the sponginess of the gel plate underneath. As I said before, I will show some of these prints at the end. There's another layer. It's a beautiful design. And it cost me $1 for the tray. So go to thrift stores, go to the dollar store, look at textures and patterns. Now this isn't a DIY one. This is a foam stamp. I believe this one's from Joggles. I did order some more because I love using like the fun foam and foam stamps with my gel plate and on my art journal pages. And I decided to use this here. So again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm using the gel plate kind of like a stamp pad, stamping onto an existing print, and then getting the pattern on the gel plate. Now here I'm just stamping onto the gel plate, and that's going to dry, and I'm going to put a layer of paint on that, and it's going to give a little bit different effect. So stay tuned because when I get I've ordered some texture plates from Carabelle Studios, and I've ordered some foam stamps from Studio Light to play with in my mixed media directly and on my gel plate. So there I'm adding the paint on top of what I stamped onto the gel plate. And it's just going to give that layered effect. So there's the one. Then I'm putting the blue on. Two different ways of getting a very similar result. This is embroidery mesh, again another dollar store purchase, and I'm pressing into it and I'm pressing off onto the other gel plate, just stamping onto it. Now I'm taking this print and I'm just pressing it onto here, picking up those crosshatch pictures and just adding something to the print and layering it. So hang in there, we have about another 10 minutes to this video. I did speed it up just double time, but I kept it slow enough so that you can see the process. That's the feedback that I've been getting from you guys when I do my gel prints. You don't want it to so sped up. You want to see the process. You want to be able to see the colors that I'm using and what tools I'm using. There I have too much paint, so it's not picking up a whole lot, which just means I get a couple pulls off of it. And it picks up whatever's on that plate. So any little mark that's still there from 3 pulls ago eventually comes up. Quinacridone magenta goes well with any blues, goes well with purple, goes well with teal. If you add yellow, you get kind of a corally color. So it's a nice color to mix with all the colors, whether you're stamping on top of it and doing the contrasting thing, or whether you're mixing the paint on the gel plate, wet on wet. There's the mesh again, and I'm stamping off onto papers on the side, off camera. There's just simply not enough room. And there's the picture. Like I said, I have lots of yellow backgrounds, so now we have yellow with magenta on it, yellow with red, yellow with orange, yellow with blue, yellow with green. And then depending on whatever project I find myself doing with it, I can select the right gel print. There, the blue is picking up. There's a print that I had with using a stencil. I'm just adding a little bit more to it, and it just totally, I love it now. And when I decide I love it, I usually get a vision of how I can use it. That would work for teacups, or that would work for this. And then I know that it is usable to me. So that's going to be different depending on your own personal style. And while I'm not intending to use these as the Insta backgrounds, you definitely could use that as a starting point. Here I've got the quinacridone magenta and I've added yellow, mixing it a little bit as I brayer it on, and that's going to make a lovely coral. There's the bottom of this serving tray, plastic serving tray. And I'm stamping off onto some papers off to the side. And I'm stamping again and again because sometimes especially when there's too much paint, it slides a little bit. And so when I keep stamping, I just get that overall pattern. Yum. And I let the paper sit there for a little bit. That pulls up all the greeblies if you just let it sit a little bit. Now here's bubble wrap. This is large bubble wrap. I'm always happy when I get a package and it has bubble wrap in it or tissue paper. Brown paper. It's all stuff I end up stashing away in my art studio. There I've stamped off onto a blue background with the bubble wrap when it's wet. And that didn't pull out this, so I'm pressing it back on and pulling it off. And remember, I'm not using this as a whole background, but if there was a gap in there, if you take the same color paint, like the quinacridone magenta there, and thin it down, and you can do a light wash, that just pushes that into the background, and you can then use the whole page. More with the bubble wrap, and I'm putting it on one that I have used the shelf liner. So we have a couple different patterns going on. The shelf liner is kind of like a dot, and then we have the bigger dots of the bubble wrap. Mix the yellow and the magenta again here, and I'm getting a gorgeous coral. There, it moved a little bit. And I don't wash those containers. The paint just builds up over time. It has not been a problem. It doesn't impact anything. Because again, I'm not trying to get a perfect print on it. So we're almost at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned to the end. Like I said, I will be showing you some pictures of some of the prints that I've created during this video. Keep watching my channel to see projects where I use these collage papers, gel printed papers. Leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, share this video with your creative friends. Bye for now.